If this merchant had not been accidentally thrown into prison, which caused him to meet a writer there who wrote down his stories, the world might never have learned about his 24-year wanderings across East Asia. The travels of Marco Polo, in which the truth is mixed with fiction and legends, actually led to an era of great geographical discoveries. Marco Polo was born in 1254 into the family of a rich Venetian merchant who was constantly away in the East on trading expeditions. No one can say whether Marco went to school or not, but it is known that the boy willingly spent his time at the port. He watched trade ships arriving and dreamed of traveling to unknown countries. Those dreams were to come true. When Marco was 18, his father Niccolo and Uncle Maffeo took the young man on their next trade expedition. They had recently returned from traveling along the Great Silk Road. In Beijing, the new capital of the Mongolian Empire, Kublai Khan, the grandson of the well-known Genghis Khan, accepted them with honor. He was an open-minded person, and he wished that the Pope would send him Christian scientists. Now, the Polo merchants were accompanying 2 monks to see the Khan and carrying gifts from the Pope. The writ of protection, providing travelers with safety, food, and shelter in the huge territory of the Mongolian Empire, was a gold plate with the personal seal of Kublai. By following long caravan routes, the merchants passed through Central Asia, visiting Mongolia, China, Tibet, and the Pamirs. During 3 years of traveling, the curious young man Marco studied 4 languages. The monks, having not held up well under the burdens of the trip, turned back halfway, and the merchants arrived in Beijing in 1275. Kublai Khan, who treated Christians with respect, appointed the young Venetian his personal representative. For 17 years, Marco Polo worked for the Khan, carrying out the ruler's assignments. He visited different ends of the huge empire, from Mongolia to India and Sumatra. The traveler went home only after the Khan's death. This time he traveled part of his way by sea. Marco Polo was then 38. His father and uncle were about 70. After a 24-year absence, the Polo merchants arrived in Venice, where everybody had considered them dead a long time ago. 2 years passed. During a fight between the continual trading competitors, Genoa and Venice, the ship on which the Venetians were sailing was seized, and Marco was thrown into the Genoa prison. There he willingly told his fellow sufferers about the miracles of the East he had seen during the 24 years. From the traveler Marco Polo, the Europeans heard for the first time about a fountain which expelled oil abundantly, and about burnable black stones which warmed houses. These were a mineral oil spring and coal, which were not yet known in Europe. The amazed Italians listened with interest about strange animals, big snakes on 4 legs, as the traveler described a crocodile. Marco told about strange Eastern customs, to drown unwanted newborn girls and to kill old men, overfeeding them with fat food by force, to poison beautiful and noble guests, but not in order to rob them, but so the soul of the guest would remain in the house, where he was killed, and bring happiness. The Chinese system of mail service, roads with a great number of guide signs, and paper money struck the listener's imagination. The traveler talked with enthusiasm about porcelain and food for cats, about hashish and opium. But the main thing Marco told about was spices, which were worth their weight in gold in Europe. For 8 months in prison, Marco Polo entertained his fellow sufferers with his stories. One of his cellmates, Rusticalo of Pisa, wrote down these stories and named them the Book of the Wonders of the World. This manuscript is now known as The Travels of Marco Polo. Many people read it, and even though much of it seemed improbable, It was difficult for his contemporaries to tell the truth from Marco Polo's rich imagination and his truthful depictions of Asia from legends and fairy tales, which were also included in the book. Therefore, the existence of people with dog heads raised no doubts, but the description of Kubla's riches was taken as fable. Skeptics said that Marco Polo had not been in China at all, and everything he said he had heard in the taverns of Damascus. After the appearance of his notes, Marco Polo lived in Venice for 25 years, almost as long as his travel to the East had lasted. He got married, continued in the trade business, and never left Italy. He lived to be 70, and by the end of his life he became difficult to get along with and greedy. He quarreled frequently with relatives and even had legal proceedings with them. The book of Marco Polo, written in the 13th century, remained for a long time the only encyclopedia of the East. For more than 200 years it served as a manual for map makers, though Polo was at times mistaken in his estimation of distances. Nevertheless, the writings of the well-known Italian traveler and observant storyteller Marco Polo are among those rare medieval works which are read with interest even until now.